You brought your friend.
Which one? This or me? It's nice to carry a spare with me, right, all the time. Okay. Well, we know this is the antenna, right? All right, let me give you a quick story here, because I think this is important. A few weeks ago, I had a couple, they're both lawyers, and they live in another state, so sometimes they call me and they ask me to help them with their situations. They run ideas past me. So the lady lawyer, she had a case that she was working on, and for roughly 2 months, she was in this protracted situation where it's not going anywhere. They're negotiating over a certain amount of money. This lady lawyer, she's at the low end of the sides. The people that are against her are at the high end of the side. No one's budging on anything. So she called and she said she had a figure in mind. Would this figure work? So I asked her, what was it? And we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars here. And she gave me this figure, and her spirit said, it said to give her a number which was $250 less than that amount. Now we're talking about tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and we're only talking now about $250 less than the figure that she was proposing. Now she's startled, and she's going like, why would I want to give them less than what I'm proposing, and especially that amount of money? And I said, okay. And they understand these concepts, so I said, use your figure, and how does the energy go through your body? And she said, it doesn't feel good. And I said, okay, use the figure I gave you from your spirit, how does that feel? And she goes, somehow that's more energetic. And then she started laughing. She goes, that's the correct answer. She goes, the one I gave her, she goes, that's the correct answer. And then she said, that's going to affect my client. This is going to solve the problem. I mean, she got it like this. And she was determined that that was the correct answer after months of this going nowhere. Well, 7 days later, just 7 days later, she calls me and she says, the case has been finished. It's finished. And it was ended exactly at the figure that her spirit asked me to give her. Okay. Now, she's going, that was amazing. And I said, why was it amazing? She goes, well, I'm just astounded that that figure, which was less than what she was thinking, would actually solve the issue. Why didn't she think of this before? That's what she said. Well, her spirit was trying to give this information to her, but here's the important part of this. People have asked me, how do they know when they're on target? How do they know when their spirit's talking to them? How do they know that they're doing the right things? Well, when she heard the figure that I gave her, $250 less than what she had, it was like lightning struck her. She knew without any doubt that was the correct value. She also knew that that was going to solve her problems for her client. It was like both things occurred at the same time, and she made it happen. Remember what I said last week or the week before? We talked about clarity. He who is clear wins. Remember we said that? She was clear that that was exactly the right value. And she proposed that with such enthusiasm, the other side just took off with it and made it happen. And every time I've seen things that go out correctly, it's worked like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's one of the ways that you know. Okay. Does it help? Help to hear that? Okay. All right. Any questions about anything we've covered up to this point? About the antenna theory, about how to use it, anything we've covered? Any questions at all? No questions. I'm impressed. Yeah. Well, I know there are questions.
Yeah.
So if I had to have questions from someone, any questions over on this side of that? Anything at all? Please.
This is comment/question.
Sure.
I keep getting the message, a lot of this is about enthusiasm
Okay.
for whatever this idea is, whatever whatever you know that you're supposed to do, have, whatever. And Susan talked tonight about feeling.
Right.
Got to have the feelings to go with it.
Right. Right. Does that make sense then?
Well, it's a whole new thought to me. I mean,
Okay.
it's beginning to make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, being a brain person, even though we're creating logic, even though we have a logical plan, the logical plan has to make sense. We have to feel good about that logical plan. And then we got to get the heart really enthusiastic, like, yes. It's like when the lawyer heard that number and and she started to let it go through her body, she just got excited knowing, yes, that was, even though she couldn't explain it, that was the correct value. And she got really excited about that. And her excitement was so strong, she sent it out through the antenna system, and it went to the other opposing attorney, and he started to get on her side like this. It was that strong. So she had a logical idea, because it was fair to both sides, and she had the enthusiasm. So yes, that's exactly correct. Good. Now there's another question in here, right in this group here.
I had a
Yes?
question about, last week we did determining the paper with the mark on it by bypassing our header part.
Okay.
Where would that be really effective? Why would we want to bypass our header part?
Well, if the head and heart are trained so they work with spirit, there's no reason that you have to bypass them.
If
Okay.
they're in harmony with each
If
other.
they're in harmony, right, if they've been trained. So you don't really have to bypass. Okay? But as we're learning things, if we're not sure if they're in agreement, we might have to bypass, at least for a while.
I don't think I learned that little trick.
Sort of like training wheels.
Yeah, sort of like training wheels.
Because I did see that it did actually work. I mean,
Right.
one person we did that with, they missed all three on they're just doing it on their own, and then when they did that, they got all three right.
That's right, and that can happen. That can happen. Very good, David. Very good. And I think what David is also trying to say right now is, if we try to use the brain, heart, and spirit in every case, and ideally we would like to do that so that we train every part of our body, our humanness, brain and heart, and our spirit working together so that it's all working the same way, that's the idealized situation. That's idealized. That's what we want in each and every case, if we can. But until we have confidence that those three elements are working together, you might have to, well, I can't call it cheating, but you may have to go to the source and see if the source can get through brain and heart without them interrupting. In some cases, they may still interrupt it if you're trying to go right to source. Okay. So the fact that that person was able to do it 3 out of 3 times, I got to give them a pat on the back. So I would really up the ante on this. You know what I mean by that? Test it. Make it count. Okay? You're at a stoplight, and just close your eyes and sense when the light's going to change. Or go to the store and look at the lines and see which line you can get through the fastest or the slowest, whatever you want. Okay? And make it important. You know, make something work. If you're going to, make a test about, should I buy this home or that car? Test it. Really put to the test. Okay? That's the purpose of the class right now, is to really up the ante for all of us so that we can really train this system to be independent. Purpose of the class. Right? There's still more of a question, though. Is there anything else?
Maybe it's cooking. I don't have a cooking thing.
Look into the future right now. How could you use this idea to help you for the future? Because you keep bringing up the future right now.
Oh. Well, I sort of think I do use it just when I'm trying to figure out like which way to go. I mean, almost, I do use it a lot actually directionally. Like
Okay.
I'm driving down the road, or I want to
Okay.
get to a certain place, and I'm just trying to figure which way to go.
Okay.
And I get a feel, go this way, go that way,
Pretty accurate, right?
It leads me to things that I never, but it leads me to things that I wanted,
Okay.
that I would have never found if I hadn't gone those ways.
Okay. Now, is it as easy to do that with your life in terms of like the decisions I need to make for my life, looking at the future? Is it as easy to do it that way also?
Yeah, I don't know so much about that one. It seems to be really easy when I'm not placing a lot of importance on it. So it's almost like when it really matters,
Right.
when it really matters, when there's a lot of pressure,
Right.
it comes more difficultly.
Right.
When I don't feel pressure, I just have a desire to experience something or find something or have something,
Right.
it just comes.
It works easily, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because you keep bringing up your future and like, where am I going with this? How can I use this? And that's why I was asking you this question. So we're looking at the future, we could be putting pressure on ourselves. You're right, it's much more difficult. So how do you get past the pressure?
Center, I guess, some kind of meditation or something.
You can. You can. I mean, all those things will work.
Maybe have some kind of centering device like we did a meditation while ago with a symbol.
Okay, you can do that.
I think they do that with Reiki or something. They train them on different symbols or something.
Isn't it your brain that kind of creates that stress or pressure? It's not really your heart, that's an enthusiasm thing, isn't it? Your brain can just bypass the brain.
Oh, now if you're a brain person, you're definitely right in what you said. If you're a heart person, your heart will do the same thing. Just a different version of it. Okay. In some cases, both are overworking, and you have real issues then, in some cases. Okay. For me, when I go into challenging arenas, what I do is I practice a lot. I mean, I have to constantly practice, because I'm constantly facing things that are pushing, challenging, so I have to keep practicing. And then I test it. And if I come up with new ideas, I make predictions and I test. And if they don't work out, then I keep going back and I keep modifying and changing, listening to my spirit until it's right. Don't ever be afraid to be wrong. Don't ever be afraid to make a mistake. Don't ever be afraid. In fact, the more mistakes you make, I hope the happier you are, because you'll hopefully be more enthusiastic about changing some things and testing and testing and testing again. You're not going to get here without making errors. Okay. Am I making my point? I have to keep testing things, and I have to look and see if they're right, and then I have complete confidence. That's my version of doing it. You might have yours that could work just as well. Okay? This is where I got to ask you a question, because you keep bringing up the question. Is there anything involved in any of this that I could answer, or maybe we could answer? Is there still something that you're unsure about? What would that be?
Okay, when I'm on, I'm on. When I'm off, I'm off. And I'm finding it difficult to be continuous with this. My emotions get in the way all over the place.
Okay.
And it gets frustrating. I'm trying not to get frustrated. So I'm just absorbing what are some techniques, like what he said, to make this work better. How do I turn off extraneous interference that keeps me from doing this as proficient? Because when I'm good at it, I'm really good at it. But some days,
Oh, tough.
yeah. So then the thought occurred to me, like what we had talked about before, about just getting the energetic part of you back on track.
Okay.
That was my conclusion,
Okay.
I guess.
Well, there are several ways. David brought up some good ideas.
Actually, we did some exercises where we did exactly what you're talking about. That was that basically balancing our head or heart. We
Okay.
vision of
Might have
color,
missed it.
hearing
Okay.
sounds or music, or having figuring out a plan,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah. Using the energetic parts of this, using the physical parts of this, because physically could be physical weaknesses, using the fundamentals, diet, water, exercise, and sleep. But in your case, it's a little different. It's not so much about what's inside, it's more about the environment that you're in your case.
Right.
Okay, it's very difficult to be quiet and to be centered when there's a fire going on. Okay? Another version of what we're talking about for stress. So sometimes there's an internal fire, sometimes there's an external fire.
Right, no matter how much I'm trying. Yeah.
Right. In your case, it's the external fire. So what I would suggest, if you're trying to do this, go to a place that you find quiet, soothing. I don't know whether it's a stream, whether it's just getting away in nature somewhere, where it could be just you, by yourself. Take a walk, I don't care what you do. But then repeat what you're doing and see if you get better results.
Usually, yes.
Right.
That's very true.
And that's a big, big issue.
Okay.
Okay, good, very good, good. See, you're asking all these questions. Dan?
Just because we're in a similar situation, just about, is there something we can do along that line before we know we're about to enter into the fire?
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, like, what do you do to
protect
prepare?
it, to stop, just another protective mechanism, I guess.
Okay. Well, for you, my friend, it's an internal game. Because you're pretty good for external situations, but it's an internal game with you. So since it's an internal game with you, how do you need to start preparing yourself, like right now? So your internal game is very strong. And when I mean internal game, your doubts. your uncertainties. How do you overcome those? Any ideas? This is mutual, my friend. We've learned a lot. Any ideas that could help? Practice is one good way, but in this case, you would have to know exactly what some of these things are. So, we'd have to practice seeing yourself very successful constantly, whatever that means to you. Okay, that whatever the standard is, that you've at least met that standard, if not higher, all the time. That'd be one way of practicing. Okay. Any other ideas? Yes.
You could try tapping to neutralize whatever's driving you nuts.
Very good. And by tapping, you mean like what? Did you stand maybe and just show what you mean by it?
I don't know if it's still on the website, but it's called the Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's there's a sequence that, have you seen it before? Is it familiar? For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a sequence where you start just tapping lightly. You think about whatever the problem is, and you forgive yourself for whatever this thing is that's driving you crazy. And there's a sequence that you do around your face, and there's actually several books on this, and there's specific sequences for different things. So if you're really agitated, and you can actually scan them and see which one you need for depression, anxiety, stress, remorse, grief, whatever it is, confusion, there are tapping sequences for all of them.
Right.
So, and they really work, they relax you and they chill you right out.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now that could work very well, but if you do use the tapping, I would suggest you use some aromatic oils like lavender or something like that. As you're smelling while you're doing this, it could also help you a great deal, especially for you. Okay? So just some ideas. Okay? Any other questions before we move on? Anything else?
What I notice about me is I separate myself out of what I think everyone can have,
Okay.
or do, or be, but then I won't believe it for me.
Okay. So that can cause then doubts in your answers.
I think so, or just,
Could you span in that, Cecile, because I don't quite get it.
well, in one of the activities we did last week, it was like, what I got from it was, well, like the big deal, if we get in at the office, someone said, well, what does that mean to you? And I said, well, I don't know, probably nothing. You know, and that's just not true.
Right. Right.
What
You know
are
what?
you talking about? I'm lost.
What?
What, it doesn't mean anything to you, but it's not true, it does. What are we talking
Well,
about?
I'm talking about, I was thinking of a big presentation that we had given that we would be engaged to do. And you know, I always think, well, it just means more work for me, not more money,
Okay.
basically.
All right. Okay. So consciously, that's what you're thinking.
I guess.
Okay. Now I'm smiling at this whole thing.
Unconsciously, that's what I'm thinking, really. I just have become more conscious that that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Okay. Well, the reason why I'm smiling is because at the beginning of your question, when you raised your hand, you asked your question, your subconscious was very glad of the progress that you've made up to this point. It was very happy, your subconscious. Now your conscious mind may be trying to resist that. Now, it may be reversed for other people. Your subconscious mind may just go in the opposite direction of that. But for you, your subconscious mind is actually very glad of the progress you've made over the weeks. But the conscious mind's resisting. Why?
Well, it's probably afraid of the work.
The work meaning,
more work than I'm doing already.
okay. Now, and if you do more work, according to your conscious mind, like where's this going to take me, what's going to happen? But your subconscious is just happy for the experience. And the experience by itself is what it's very, very much appreciating. So,
I know.
so
And I feel that happiness there too.
right. So I guess the answer to get both conscious, subconscious minds together would be what? What would she need to do to help get both of those working together so that she is unified? What does she really want? Any ideas?
More money or more time for herself?
Bingo. More time.
Both of those, probably.
And we might use the word future.
Uh-huh.
What's your future? Well, just like we were talking with David about future, it's very important that we begin creating the future. Now, that could be a lot more work, but I would rather it be under my control versus just going out there without any forethought, especially being a brain person. You.
I was gonna say, does she have a plan? That's actually what I
Right.
thought, is like, it's not in the plan, it's like what I thought.
Well, Cecile, do you have a plan?
No.
Okay. You might see that with a plan, it might be a lot easier to get both together, and I think your answers would be then much more congruent.
I think so, because I think they're fighting.
They are fighting.
You know, if there's more work, I have less time
Right.
for me.
Right.
And I think that's the fight.
Okay. And remember what we've also said is the purpose of what I would like to think, the reason why we want to get in touch with Spirit, is not just to make sure our brain and heart are working together, but to give us more time. That's the big part of this. Because we lose time in this conflict. We gain time when everything is working. Right?
I do see that.
Yeah. Okay. And then in the process of gaining time, then we're also gaining everything else that we've ever wanted according to our spirit, what's appropriate for us. Right? Okay. Good question. And let me go to one other thing before we go to those handout sheets right now. What's the point that we could be missing as a group? What's the point? And she's getting lower. Sinking into the ground. It's like into the next area here. Right? Please, I.
Could it be that we think that we're doing this all by ourselves, alone?
Thank you. Thank you.
It's never that way.
Okay.
We have to, those moments when we are filled with doubts that we can't, or maybe your mind, you can't get that balance, is, I think, those moments when we find ourselves maybe separate from that life force that is within us all, because there is oneness among us all. We have, we are light, we are energy, and we forget about that sometimes. I think we have to go back to that, whether it's just becoming quiet and just saying, I am that I am, or whether I am one with the life force, I'm one with spirit, or, all that God is, I am. And I think that's what it is. We forget about that, and we're trying to do everything on our own,
Okay.
and working
Okay.
at trying to work hard at doing that. Doesn't have to be.
Okay. And now that's good. That's a very good point. From where we are now, that's a very good point that takes us away from where we are in the right direction. Okay? But why is that such an important point? Where is this ultimately leading?
Or we can do this all on our own with the help of God and Spirit.
True. But where is that leading? What's the reason for recognizing this, for learning this technique, for really utilizing this? Why? Do we have a future? Do we have a future? Of course we do. Is it according to Spirit, your spirit's, as well as mine, is your future good? Gotta wear shades, right? Right? The future's so bright, we gotta wear shades. Right? I have not heard of anyone's future, from all the work I've done over 20 years of this work, where it said they want to take them off and work in a chain gang. I've never heard anyone ever say that in their spirit. Okay? So that's the reason why we're doing this. We all have a future. And maybe we can get there a whole lot faster, a whole lot easier, a whole lot simpler, and maybe be much more productive in the process, and maybe make our life much more valuable to us. Please.
Okay, so there are so many potentials for our futures.
True.
And when there's like many ways that you could actually go towards your future.
Right.
And all of them could be wonderful and good.
Right.
So how does one actually hone in on that one focus to really be manifesting, to really be focused on?
Okay, excellent question. What's her answer?
You don't have to know, do you?
When
Oh,
your
yes, we do.
energy
If it's on the
goes
plan,
through
you gotta
you
be
like
clear.
this,
You have to be clear.
Right, right.
and you're feeling that.
Okay, true, that is true. Now, in a lot of regards, I sometimes act like a brain person. And when I have important questions like this, I want to write them down. I want to write down the question, like what should I do with my life in maybe a specific area? Business, health, relationships, you name it. And then I'll write down some ideas as to what the answer would be. And then if I wasn't sure, I would have someone muscle test me. Okay, you'll find that only one version of that is going to be the strongest. And you can test for any number of them, anytime. And will they change? Yes, they will. As you experience more and do more, maybe the ideas will get bigger. They never get smaller. They always seem to get bigger, because you can follow that too. You will always know exactly what you need to do. Okay? And then, as you do this enough and enough and enough, you come up with an idea, and wham! It's like, just like the lady did, the lady attorney, when she heard the answer, just like lightning hit her. I knew that was the right answer, she said. And she made it happen. That's how this works. But first, start with the muscle testing, okay, or any other version of that. I think is your answer. Clear? Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's get going on some new ideas. If you have any questions, email me those, okay, or we'll talk about them after class. Tonight, I want to go back into helping you, all of us, heal ourselves as a community, helping heal every cell of our body at the same time. Okay? And also, we can extend this, taking us into the throne room of God, but we probably won't have enough time tonight to do this. But tonight we're going to get started in this process so that you can take it home and begin working with it. So, is there anyone here who's dealing with an issue that you might have to say a little bit about it? Would you mind saying it to anyone here, I mean saying it to us as a group? Would someone volunteer to come up? So we can work on this. I could show you this quickly as a group, and then you can go off and do it with yourselves. Anyone? Sure, you did last week.
I did last week, so
You were-
I'd like
We're
somebody
going to know
else
everything
to.
about you.
I don't
Forget about something that we're working on
Something,
right now.
something we're working on right now. You may won't mind talking about it if we have to, or maybe some issues with it. Sandra?
Okay.
Okay, good. Young lady, if you wouldn't mind, let's come forward. And Roger, can I have you turn the lights down a little bit, please? A little bit. There we go. A little bit more.
There. Perfect.
Oh, you're going to look like an angel right now. Just a few minutes. Okay. All right. So with the handouts, what we're going to do is, I call this the transporter method because we're going to literally go up in space. Okay? We're going to go up into space, and we're going to have your partner imagine that she or he is now going up into space, they're floating, and all of their cells are physically leaving their body so that they actually disappear, and their cells are floating around in space. So Sandra, could I ask you please, to close your eyes? Would you take yourself up? And that's the first part of what we're doing, right here. So just imagine now that you're ascending, and as you're ascending, you're allowing all the cells to separate from your body. Now, in this process, what you want to do is you want to begin to give God and the angels permission to help you. So give them permission as you're separating the cells. Tell them what you want them to do in this process, and let's keep expanding until you are completely dissolved. Keep going, keep expanding, keep going out even further. That's it. Even more. Even more. Good. Good. How's it looking now?
It's great. It feels great.
Good. Excellent.
I feel great.
Now the reason why I'm saying this and she's agreeing with me is the energy is beginning to flow through her body very well. And that's what you want to sense. Okay, now that she's floating in space, I want you to imagine that all of your cells have consciousness, that those cells actually can see around them, just like you're seeing right now. And let's imagine that they're seeing you, this version of you, sitting in a circle right now, as the cells are floating around in space. So they're looking at you right now. Okay? Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is I want all of those cells to start looking at you, and I want them to start at your DNA, and for them to work their way out to the surface of your skin. And if there's any darkness inside you, I don't care where it is, then keep expanding those cells further and further out into space until the darkness is released and you begin to look almost like you're glowing like a light bulb. Okay? So keep expanding. That's it. Keep going out further and further into space. Go through your DNA. Go out through every layer of your body, out into the surface of your skin. Keep going. Stay in gratitude. It's very important to stay in gratitude. Good, you're doing great. Excellent. Okay, now you're looking pretty good here. How's it looking to you? Are you luminous? Like a light bulb?
I'm getting there.
Good, good.
Turning up the watts.
There you go. Okay, so let's keep expanding even further, because we can go out even more. Even further. Even more. Okay, now how's that feeling now?
Much better.
Yeah, much better. Okay, now we're using this point as a reference point. So when she sees this amount of luminosity coming from her body, this is her gauge. This is her gauge for the next part of this. So what we're going to do now is, let's imagine within this circle, you're bringing in this situation you would like to resolve, whatever that is. Okay? So bring in that situation within that circle. Okay? And what happens to your light now? Does it get more dim? That's right. Collapses, right? Thank you. Thank you. And you can feel it as it's going through her body. It stops in her chest, where before it was going all the way down to her feet when she was looking at just herself. So now, keep expanding those cells. Keep expanding them out further and further. And the reason why we're expanding the cells out is because whatever this is, the energy of whatever this is trying to harm her. We're going to expand the cells out so far into space that this energy of harm cannot reach those cells. And we've asked God and the angels to heal those cells, so we're doing double duty. Keep expanding, keep sending them out further and further into space. Stay in gratitude. And as that energy, check your DNA also, all the way from the DNA all the way to the surface of your skin. Okay. Keep expanding. That's it. Keep expanding even more so. Now I'm coupled into what she's thinking right now, so I'm seeing it through her eyes. So keep going. Keep expanding it even further. And even further. Good. Now what's happening to the intensity of that energy, of that situation? Is it getting smaller, increasing? Yeah, it's getting smaller. It's less than half of what it was. In fact, it's about a quarter. You're doing great. Keep going. Keep expanding. Okay? How is the intensity of your body looking? The luminosity of your body? Is it getting brighter?
Yes.
That's right.
Because that's getting dark. That's.
Yes, it's getting much smaller. Okay, excellent. Keep expanding. Okay, keep expanding. And tell me when that negative energy within the circle disappears completely. Keep expanding. And continue to stay in gratitude. And those are the words that you want to keep saying to your partner, is keep expanding and stay in gratitude. Just keep expanding. Keep expanding even more. And even more still. Okay. Now, how's that energy looking now, the luminosity of your body? So back to where we started? Yeah. And how's the energy of that situation? Is it gone now?
It's like a pinpoint.
Yeah, it's very small. It's very small. Let's get rid of it completely. Go out a little further, okay? And keep expanding. And keep staying in gratitude. That's good. Okay, now, her spirit is telling me, and she's telling me about her father and brother. So let's bring your father into this circle. And what happens when you bring your father into the circle, to your energy? Yeah, it just goes down. So let's do the same thing with him that you just did with that situation. Keep expanding even further. Stay in gratitude. Okay, even more gratitude. And you're bringing in brother now, so what's the name of the brother? Because I know you have a few of them, right?
Scott, I think Scott.
Yeah, he's the one. We'll bring him in. What happens when you bring Scott in now? That's right. That's right, so keep expanding. And we don't care why her energy is diminishing. All we want to do is we want to make sure that whatever this energy is inside of her, and whatever the association is of her energy inside her with these people, places, or things, that we release it so she is free and stays neutral. So keep expanding, keep expanding. That's it. Go out even further. Even further now. Okay, can you see Scott smiling now?
He's about this big.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's smiling. Like, I'm glad that you're free of me. Right now. So good job, Sandra. Keep going out further. All right. Now, imagine, because you're saying this to me, imagine you're bringing yourself back into the circle, like you're working on yourself, but now it's you with a smile on your face. What happens with you with a smile on your face coming into that circle? What happens to your energy now?
So.
Yeah, it's a so-so.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the general direction is to go down. Because it's unusual for you to trust and to smile. So let's get rid of this because you deserve to smile more. Okay? So again, keep expanding those cells out further and further into space. Okay, and stay in more gratitude, even more gratitude. Now some of you may be wondering, like, how do I know what to put in this circle? Well, let them guide you. If we had more time, I would let her guide me. I'm doing this for your sake. Let them guide you. Okay? If you're helping them, let them tell you what they want to put into the circle. It'll be good enough right now. Okay, so keep expanding. Keep expanding. Go out even further. Good. Even further. See yourself smiling even more. Okay. Looks pretty good now, right? But keep expanding because the luminosity of your body is still just a little bit low, even though you're smiling more. So keep expanding more, even more. Yeah. And let's finish it off right now. Let's finish it off with you seeing yourself achieving whatever this is. Okay? So bring the achievement of whatever this is into that circle. Okay? So what happens when you bring in the achievement to your luminosity?
It's big.
Okay, it is. But look at yourself, go back to your DNA, and work your way out to the surface of your skin. There's some type of doubt here yet.
Yeah.
There's still some type of darkness. Okay, let's uproot this and get this out. You're doing great, absolutely fantastic. So go from the DNA out to the surface of your skin. Keep expanding. Stay in even more gratitude. Now, if there's any charge, negative charge about the word believing, let's keep expanding until you can make that your mantra, the word believing. So that's in short supply right now. Keep expanding, keep expanding. Okay, stay in gratitude, go out even further, go out even further, even more. Good. How's it looking now?
Much better. It feels more natural.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to call this our stopping point right now because she said I can stop here. So we're going to bring all the cells back from space back into your body. I want you to see yourself, your body forming again, back into you, physically back into you. So keep bringing them back. The important part is, I don't care how you do this technique, the important part is when you go up into space and send out your cells, when you're ready to come back, bring all the cells back. Make sure they all come back. So bring them back even further, even more. That's it, even more. That's it. You're done. That's it. Now, imagine you're sitting in front of you and you're looking at yourself now. And I'm curious, what do you see now that's different than before we started this? What's different now?
I'm smiling naturally.
Good.
And I'm more relaxed.
Okay. Also, look at the way your body is fitting together now, like the cellular structure of your body. How's it looking now as compared to when we started?
It's more orderly.
That's right.
There's not so much chaos.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly
It's
right.
orderly, that's it.
That's it. That's exactly correct. She's actually more dense now, physically, more dense. She has better cellular communication now because the old stories and parts of the old stories are gone. So without those old stories, she doesn't need all that disruption that was creating all the cellular dysfunction, all the disruption in the communication systems of her body. Now, what do you think could happen if you could go up enough to every part of your life?
I could release those
That's right.
parts.
That's right. All the parts are gone. All those negative parts are gone. You can start physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healing every part of your body. Good job. Good work. And isn't she pretty? Or
Smiling more.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so is it clear? I want you to practice, begin to practice with your partner. Is it clear? Yes.
I have a question because, I mean, I've already done this, but when you say let all disappear, I have a hard time with my head.
Right.
The all expanding, but my head is still there.
Okay. What do you think? And that's okay. That's okay. What do you think that means? So the rest of your body is going out into
Yes,
space, but
but-
your head won't disappear.
No.
Okay, what do you think that means?
Mental resistance.
Thank you. That's exactly what that means. And some part, you may have your heart that won't disappear. You may have a part of your body that won't disappear. I've actually had that happen several times to people when I do this with them in the office. If that happens, it's okay. Keep expanding everything else and just put it to the side. If you keep doing
it will
this,
happen.
it will happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that's a very good question. Very good question. Thank you. That's an excellent question. I forgot to talk about that. Thank you. So I never have to worry about it. Thank you.
Now, the thing that I'm not sure is when you say disappear, when you say bring it to the circle. What circle? You know, if we are spanning, where's the circle?
Okay. And that's another good question. So, especially from a brain
Be
person.
prepared.
We want people are going to know to do this like this. We don't do it you don't have to add this, but the brain people are going to wait a minute. That's okay. That's all right. No, this is good. These are good questions. Okay, here's the way I interpret this. Because I had to really think about this. All right? I interpret this that every one of my cells is a reflection of me physically. Every one of my cells, just like a drop of seawater, is a reflection of the entire sea.
So it's like like a lot of innata.
Yeah, that's it, like little me's out there in space.
We all have a head.
Austin, what's that guy's
Austin
name?
Power.
Austin Power,
Mini
right?
me.
Mini me's, there you go. So I got many cell me's out there in space, okay? Look just like me, okay? So they're out there in space and they're looking all around, but I'm going to give them a target. I'm going to give them my image of me around in that circle. I'm giving them a target. See, it's like I can see myself right now even though I'm standing here. I can literally see myself even though I'm standing here in my image. Okay? So I'm asking you to imagine an image of you in that space, and just like it was like a hologram, I'm asking you to imagine you could go right into your cellular structure from your DNA all the way out to the surface of your skin in the beginning, the first part of it, and see if there's any darkness in this image of you, in this energy part of you. Okay?
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Now, I had to really think about this. Okay? So that's good. That's a good question. And then we just keep using that same idea all through these other elements. Just
Even
like
though we are expanded, we no longer all together, or we doing the same thing at the same time?
When you say the same thing at the
Yes,
same time.
I mean, we're expanding, but at the same time we are there.
Okay, yes, and the reason for the expansion is this. Those energies, whatever these situations are, because they're negative, they have a finite distance. That's my belief system, okay?
Say that again.
Okay, the energies of whatever this is trying to hold us down to this earthly plane, they are physical. They're physical energies, so they have a finite distance, okay? The spiritual energy, which is the energy we're dealing with, is infinite. Infinite. So I'm getting you out of the physical realm, and I'm asking you to expand those cells beyond the physical limits of this human energy that's trying to stop us. So those cells are out there in the spiritual area where they can heal. They can't be touched by our physical nature. Make sense? Okay.
So I don't think too much about it.
No, yeah, but I think it'll make sense if you start using this. That's why your brain is not disappearing. Okay? Because your brain is going like, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do this, this, and this. So let's get it under control. That's okay. It's normal. Some people may see some parts of them not disappearing too. But I just want you to practice this for a few minutes on each one, just to give yourself some practice, and then take it home, do more work with it. And did we talk about getting back together again with a potluck?
Yes.
Yep, so we're going to do that in about 2 weeks. Is that going to be all right?
It's a 12.
December 12th.
Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'm hoping that maybe in the potluck we can go up to the throne room of God, because by then you'll practice enough, and I think you'll feel the experience.
It is kind of like trying to be in two places at once, though.
Possibly.
Sure.
Possibly.
I mean, it's kind of...
We're always in two places at once.
Yeah, but you have to keep track of it. You got cells
I mean,
floating
you're
around,
thinking
and you got
about-
yourself in a
You're thinking
circle.
about
That's
doing
all
the
I'm
work,
saying.
you're already there.
And another way of thinking about this is, I have my cells, because I'm thinking like...
Because you're pushing them up. I mean, you gotta like put some thought there, and then you like come back down here and look at the circle. I'm like,
It's a separation of spiritual and physical.
I understand the concept completely. I'm just saying it's a little challenging. for me.
It can be. It can be. Give it the best shot you can. This is very unusual, very different. You just have to practice. It'll click.
But when you're doing this expanding and expanding, going out and out and out,
Right.
you're not in the circle anymore.
Right. Your cells are expanding out, but the image of you is in that circle.
The image is in the circle.
Because we're using that image as our guide to evaluate what's really happening to me, okay? Because we're evaluating ourselves in that circle. And the cells will just keep expanding until that image of you in that circle, that's our guide. So as that image gets very white, very luminous, very like a light bulb, then we know that whatever this darkness is gone. Okay? And we know that that energy is a representation, in that circle, that energy is a representation of what's in my cells. So when I bring it all back, I'm now dealing with the same energy. I bring all the cells back. May I ask you to maybe try this and see what you get? It may be a whole lot easier than what we think.
And don't think too much about it, is that what you're trying to say?
I'm asking you to give it your best, not to put the brain in the way right now,
All right.
but to give it a shot. Jack, you just did this. What helped you to do this? How did you think of this to help you do this easily? Was there any way that you were thinking about this technique?
I just totally relax and just follow your instructions.
Okay.
I believe I have trust in you.
Okay.
So I just follow your guidance and just follow your instructions. It just flows smoothly.
Okay. Okay, well, he's a hard person, so I really respect that answer. And he did extremely well. But again, you gotta be able to handle everyone. So what I'd ask you to do is ask questions. Ask questions. And that young man, Jack, he did very, very well. You might have some questions to ask him. He might be able to give you some advice too, because he did very well. But I'll do anything I can to help, and I'm sure Susan will answer questions too. But let's get started.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just concept, I mean, like, I know the concept, I get it, but what is the difference, like, can't we just, like, heal without taking specifics? Like, remember when we first started, it was ask God and the angels to heal themselves,
Sure.
and then expand, and you're removing yourself from your physicalness.
Sure. Yeah, another tool in your handy bag. And what I've seen about this way of doing it, which I have not seen in any other way, is that at one point in our cleansing, at some point in the cleansing using this technique, now we create sacred space. I've never had this happen before with any other technique that I've ever thought of or heard of. At some point as I'm working on people and I take them up, I'll see a certain situation occur, and I won't go into it right now, but when I see that situation, I have to start standing back from the person. Whatever I'm doing to them, I have to literally stand back. I can't touch them, I can maybe talk to them, but then eventually they get into
You had that happen with me with the other technique, actually. It was not with this one.
Yeah, well, I don't remember that, but I know in this one, it happens all the time.
Okay.
And that's what I'm asking, is that maybe we can get there a lot easier.
Yeah.
And if
Just
the other one
curious,
works,
yeah.
the other one works, great, use the other one. But I want people to practice this because maybe a lot of people don't know that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you always have to literally see something? Like see yourself, see the brightness, see the light?
You may not. You may not.
Visual.
That's okay. You may sense something. If you sense something, it's okay. I may sense something that could involve fear. I may sense something that could involve anger or frustration. Sensing is just as good. And keep expanding until what you're sensing now is calmness or peace. Okay? Yes.
Yeah, I was actually sort of following along when you were doing it, and I was thrown off a little bit when you referred to, see the circle expanding, because I was like a sphere. I was expanding in a spherical way, not in a circular way.
Whichever you want. You can use anything you want, as long as it works for you.
Right.
Okay. I actually had several variations on it just today, and all of them will work. But this, just trying to keep us the same. Okay. Anything else? Shall we? Give it a shot?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's not what this means. Let's get it done, right? That's what it means. Let's get it done.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay.
About 4 minutes.
So shall we?